show of military might and menace. Why should the West trust you?
Frankly, I don't care whether the West trusts us or not.
Sky News. Get the full story first.
Have a quick word for Sky News. Is the West right? Are you fueling Russia's war machine? American journalist Evan Gershkovich is on trial here, but was first on display.
I'm Ivor Bennett, Sky's Moscow correspondent.
This is Sky News. In just a moment, the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. But first, our top stories. President Trump says Vladimir Putin has told him Russia will hit Ukraine back for attacks on airfields. Kremlin officials said all options are on the table. The Old Bailey has heard that an arson attack in East London was orchestrated by the Russian Wagner paramilitary group. And the Chancellor has confirmed that the government's U-turn on the winter fuel allowance means more pensioners will receive payments this year. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with economist and broadcaster Steve Richards. And joining us for the first time, the former First Minister of Northern Ireland, Baroness Foster. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. So let's see what's on some of those front pages for you now. Well, the Eye leads on the government's winter fuel allowance policy U-turn, reporting that 1.3 million more pensioners are now in line to receive payments this year. The Guardian claims the changes could cause chaos, as the new system could involve the government recouping money through tax returns. The Express leads with this too, but says Labour hasn't gone far enough and that Reform UK leader Nigel Farage is calling for all pensioners to get winter fuel payments. The Telegraph leads on Rachel Reeves' spending review, reporting that there will be no cuts to the £13.2 billion Warm Homes plan. The Metro highlights another facet of the Chancellor's spending review, in this case a pledge of more than £15 billion to improve public transport outside London. The Mail says battle lines have been drawn over immigration policy as both Labour and the Conservatives prepare to unveil proposals. The FT hears that a leading US fiscal watchdog has warned that sweeping tax legislation championed by Donald Trump will add $2.4 trillion to America's national debt. And there's a warning to women using weight loss jabs on the front of the Sun, saying their use may reduce the effectiveness of oral contraceptives and that there has been a boom in so-called Ozempic babies. And we are joined tonight by Steve Richards and Arlene Foster. Welcome to both of you. Let's start with the front page of The Guardian. And the headline there, chaos fears over return of winter fuel payments. Is that an accurate description, Arlene? Is there to be chaos over the return of these payments, this U-turn?
Well, this has been flagged now for a couple of weeks. Today in the House of Commons, the Prime Minister wasn't very clear as to what was going to happen, didn't have the detail. All we know is that there is going to be a U-turn of sorts. We don't know how big that U-turn is going to be. And so here we have The Guardian saying there's going to be chaos in relation to all of this because they're saying, their story is, and there's various different takes on the winter fuel payment U-turn, but this is talking about the fact that it's going to be clawed back from tax bills from people who are high-income pensioners, is the way they're described. So this, to me, would be very much akin to the inheritance tax bill proposal that they've put on farmers, for example. So there's worry out there in rural UK about what it's going to mean for farmers going forward. And now we're going to add worry to a lot of pensioners as well, that they're going to have money clawed back as well. So I think, you know, I'd be surprised if they go down this road, but it's interesting that The Guardian is leading on this tonight.
And Steve, The Guardian's suggesting that bereaved families of tens of thousands of dead pensioners could be pursued for this tax because there is a time lag of some, I think, 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree with Arlene because I don't see the parallel with the farmers, because in this case they're giving money back to a lot of people. The point the Guardian makes, and this is the problem when you try and execute a U-turn and announce that you're going to do it and then have to find how you're going to do it, is if you're not going to just return it to everyone, as Nigel Farage opportunistically is suggesting, what is the cut-off point and how do you execute that cut-off point? And I think probably a sensible way, to be honest, is to do it through tax. To say, right, the high earners will pay it back in tax. Now, the Guardian is saying the chaos might arise if those high-earning pensioners die and others then have to pay it back. But you know, you have to pay inheritance tax and all these things. I mean, I think that's manageable. I mean, the context is that more people will get it back, the winter fuel payment. But when you do a U-turn on a policy that's become, I don't think they ever expected it to become totemic.
Yes.
It's going to be difficult as to how you do it. But to tax those who get it, who are high-earning pensioners, is probably the most practical way of doing it, to be honest.
And that being, Arlene, because means testing would be a far more expensive route.
It would be, and it'd be incredibly difficult and would cost probably as much as it would be in relation to the payment itself.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why means testing will be ruled out. But one of the other newspapers, I think, is talking about a more limited way to deal with that, and that is by giving the winter fuel payment, and this is in the paper, giving it to people on disability and housing benefit, and that would be an easier way of doing it. It would be a more limited way, I think, Steve.
I think it would be a bit more limited.
It would be more limited than giving it back to everybody and then recouping it. But I do think that recouping it, I know what you're saying, it's been given back and then it's going to go into their tax returns. But when you think of elderly people passing away and then being pursued by the taxman for their winter fuel payments, I think it's a bit incongruous, to be honest.
Let's move on. You mentioned the eye and that solution of ruling out a host of options for making winter fuel payments available to the most vulnerable, leaving those on housing and disability benefits more likely to become eligible. Let's look at the Express. Nigel Farage, as we've already mentioned, he wants to return it to everyone, and this is something that he's going up against the government on, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say, give it to everybody. I mean, by the way, there is an argument. If you're going to do a U-turn, just do it and return it to everyone. And there is a clean simplicity about it. But you do have to explain how these things are going to be paid for. And Nigel Farage, is in an interesting position now, which he's not used to, which is he's not making speeches about Brexit and, you know, then going to host a radio show or go on GB News. He's posing as the leader of the opposition, in effect. And if you say these things, you've got to say how you're going to pay for them. And that's a kind of missing element to quite a lot of the things he's saying at the moment. So I'm not surprised he's saying this, and politically it's smart. But how do you pay for it?
Well, that is one of the benefits of being in opposition, that he doesn't really have to spell out exactly what he would do.
Yeah, and it is populist. I mean, as I remember, the winter fuel payment came in from Gordon Brown. I think the universal winter pay, he introduced it for everybody then, and it was incredibly popular, obviously. But here's Nigel Farage saying, let's go back to Gordon Brown's position and let's give it back to everybody. And he's turning his tanks on the Labour Party again, isn't he? He's just saying, let's go and give it to everybody. Let's be socialist. Let's have everybody getting the winter fuel payment. And he's doing what he does best.
This will hurt Labour, though, won't it? Because they're really trying to regain voters lost to reform, and they're sort of fighting now, it seems, for similar ground.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's clever, Nigel, and I do find it interesting that he's pitching to the left of Labour on quite a few themes at the moment. However, when you say it will hurt Labour, I think not doing anything on this would have really hurt them. I mean, Labour MPs came back from those elections in May saying this has got to be addressed. And I think Rachel Reeves was aware of it, even though she was the instigator, as well as Number 10. So I think in addressing it, they will, over time, remove something that has become such a thorny issue for them in a way that they had never anticipated. So it will take it out of the equation. But it's been done in a very messy way. Say you're going to do it, but then not say when or how, and now you go, so how are we going to do it? And they're rushing around to make this announcement in time for people to get it this winter. So U-turns in government are difficult. It's easier being Nigel Farage, to be honest, saying, yeah, we'll do this, we'll do that. But as you say, that's the luxury of opposition.
Let's turn to... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I presume the detail will come in the spending review next Wednesday.
They're going to have to do it then,
Yeah, they
aren't
are definitely going to have to do it then.
Let's turn to another U-turn, or a rowback, perhaps, is a better description on the front of the Telegraph. Rachel Reeves forced to drop net zero cuts. Ed Milliband has defeated an attempt by Rachel Reeves to raid one of his key net zero schemes. This is next week's spending review. Ali.
I think this is a very interesting headline, actually, because it's something I didn't expect. I expected Rachel Reeves to win this particular battle, and it looks as if Ed Milliband has won through, and he's going to keep his budget, according to the Daily Telegraph front page tomorrow. I think it's interesting that we're seeing this played out because I think it was last week or the week before that we seen the Angela Rayner story about how she was positioning herself in relation to what Rachel Reeves was doing. So I think there's a lot of dynamics going on within the cabinet at the moment, and it's interesting to see what's been briefed out.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting, the areas where Keir Starmer has intervened. I understand that there is more money, for example, Liz Kendall and Bridget Phillipson have got more money for kids to qualify for free school meals, which was a very emotive theme when Boris Johnson didn't do it and then he U-turned. And anyway, there's going to be more money for that. And this is interesting because home insulation is expensive but pays dividends if you do it. Heating goes down. And it's a very sensible policy. I remember talking about Keir Starmer when he was leader of the opposition. They've done it in Italy in a big way. I mean, who would have thought Italy with all that heat and warmth, but they've done it. And it's highly effective as a way of reducing the cost of fuel. And it's interesting that he's come down on the side of Ed Miliband. I think he's intervening a bit more with the Treasury than happened in July when they first came in and Rachel Reeves did the winter fuel announcement, amongst other things, and her autumn budget. And these areas, he's come down on the side of Ed Miliband and say on school meals as well, there's more money.
And Arlene, we see a big pledge to get Britain moving, front page of the Metro, £15 billion promised by the Chancellor today.
Yes, 15 billion to get Britain moving, but of course it's really only England and parts of England. I mean, there's no mention of Scotland, Wales, or indeed Northern Ireland for that matter, and it'll be interesting to see if there are Barnett consequentials, in other words, money of a similar nature coming to those parts of the UK. But it's interesting that the Metro are saying, oh, all this money is going to Nottingham and Derby and other places in the north, but what about us in London? We're not getting much more money. So it's interesting to see the Metro's taking all of that. Instead of saying, actually, this is about connectivity across England, they're more worried about what's happening in the city.
I think this is good news. To invest in transport will, again, it's a bit like the thing we were just talking about, will pay in all kinds of ways in the years to come. I'll be interested to hear, will you get it in Northern Ireland, do you think? I mean,
well,
if they're putting the money in.
And I'm sure...
And Scotland, well,
yeah,
London is obviously, they're focusing on areas outside London for all kinds of reasons. Yeah. There's a genuine need, but the politics of it are clear as well.
But it is about connectivity as well, so...
There's absolutely that need for connectivity. And the money, this is where she did change her fiscal rules, for money for capital spending. Is to be judged in a slightly different way. There's some really tough settlements still in current spending, but it's good. I mean, we'll have to look at the details and to see what more is announced next week, but that's great.
Yeah. 8 regions will share in that money, that pot of 15 billion. For the moment, Arlene and Steve, thank you very much. We're going to take a break. Coming up, differing visions from Labour and the Tories on how to handle immigration. We'll look at both proposals when we come back. Do stay with us.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK? This is clearly an enormous show of force.
It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling?
I am angry. It is an anti-woman agenda.
Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? The UK?
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Are you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, our God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Sky News, get the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
Jubilation in the streets, while some emotional.
This is a political victory for Prime Minister Modi and his Hindu Nationalist Party. I'm Neville Lazarus and I'm Sky's reporter based in Delhi. Companies like these are helping India in its trajectory to be a serious player in space exploration. Sky News, get the full story first.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
Welcome back. You are watching the press preview. Still with me, Steve Richards and Arlene Foster. Let's start this section with a look at the front page of the Mail. And they have Sir Keir Starmer and Kemi Badenoch side by side battling it out over immigration. Steve, take us into this.
It's such a fascinating front page because normally you would assume that the Mail, I mean, they're not, you know, like Sky and the BBC, no one would accuse them of being impartial or needing to be. But they've done a front page where they've basically said, this is Keir Starmer's plan for a crackdown on immigration, and this is Kemi Badenoch's plan. And they haven't, what they would normally do is slaughter Keir Starmer's plan and hail Kemi Badenoch's. They've presented it as battle lines drawn. I found, you know, a lot of briefing must have been going on both sides to get that front page. But it's an unusual one for the Mail. Now, whether either of these schemes deals with these issues is a separate matter, really. But I think it's quite interesting that the Mail just doesn't say, Kemi, you triumph, this is what she's going to do, and rubbish the other way. Both presented as, here are the options.
Now, it is interesting, actually.
Yeah, it's not like them, is it?
Come down on one side.
I don't know the inside pages, whether they then hammer one and go for the other, but quite unusual for them, don't you think?
No, I do think that, but I think it also shows This is such a huge story. I mean, both parties are locked into trying to find solutions. As you say, whichever one of these, if either of them, are going to be able to work. But when you have, I think it was on Sunday, over 1,000 undocumented illegal migrants coming over in small boats, that's going to be the issue, isn't it? And you know, all of these efforts to try and deal with this are really, you know, how many false dawns have there been in trying to deal with illegal migrants? And Kemi's talking about reviving the Rwanda-style scheme, the fact that it wasn't given a fair chance, and actually it was leading to people thinking again about coming over on those small boats. But then the Home Office, Yvette Cooper, as you rightly say, Steve, is also briefing in terms of what they're going to do. And the fact, what I find interesting is, for the first time, Labour is planning to bring in laws curtailing the use of the European Human Rights Convention. That must be the first time we've heard that sort of language.
Yeah, I wonder what curtailing means in terms of its application. Because it was very interesting when Keir Starmer made that press conference speech where the controversial one, you know, strangers in your own land.
Yes.
In the Q&A afterwards, question and answer session afterwards, he was asked about the European Convention, and he became himself then, not reading someone else's script, and he said, we're not going to change it. That's not what we're going to do. Now, curtailing could mean all sorts of things.
Well, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? You know, it's one thing to leave, it's another thing to curtail.
Yes, the devil's in the detail, as they say. But meanwhile, Kemi Badenoch saying that she'll vow to withdraw Britain from any international treaties that stand in the way of returning to the Rwanda scheme. Let's move on to the Metro. It's disgusting. Who's saying that, Steve? And about what?
Well, this was the inevitable breakup of the Trump-Musk fleeting partnership. And for the last few days, he's basically been... Musk has been absolutely tearing into Trump's plans. And I'm afraid if you sort of try and have this dance with a maverick like Musk, this is the predicted and predictable consequence. And he's just going for, you know, some of the things that he was part of, you know, in that glorious honeymoon post November and Trump's election.
Well, it's the big, beautiful bill that he objects to, which he says is destroying all of the work that he was trying to put in with Doge. So that's the essence of the bust-up. But just to bring in a White House official quote, which we've seen this evening coming into us, Musk's opposition is one disagreement in an otherwise harmonious relationship, says one White House official. And they also say the White House will not consult every policy decision with Elon Musk. Trump is committed to getting the bill passed, despite opposition from Musk.
What I find interesting was, if you look at the top of the Daily Telegraph, actually, it says Musk wanted to stay on at the White House. So, you know, he wanted to stay on. He has left. He was given the ceremonial keys to the White House in that, what I thought was rather bizarre ceremony, with him having a black eye and, you know, talking to Donald Trump. He's sitting down, Elon Musk is standing, as we see in the newspaper. No, I'm not surprised.
You've had to deal with tricky people, you know, in politics. Are you surprised at how quickly it's fallen apart?
No, do you know what it reminds me of? Dominic Cummings and Boris Johnson. That's what it reminds me of. And I have to say, when I looked at that, the stance and everything else just reminded me of the two of them.
But he did complete his allocated time.
He did.
The number of days he was meant to complete his head of Doge. So, yes, the bust-up came after the agreed time. Eileen and Steve, thank you very much for taking us through the papers. We'll see you at the top of the 11.
We've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. I'm ready. Are you? Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's futures.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometres away.
So this is a major humanitarian disaster.